Hi everyone, I'm Chrissy Barrick, Head of Digital Influencing at Scope. I run a program called The Big Hack, which works with businesses and the tech industry to break down barriers that disabled people face using day-to-day online products. We have a number of resources that we offer in The Big Hack, and we've got a whole page of lots and lots of articles which give reasons why you should be practicing accessibility, but also hints and tips and information on how to do that, and also the impact it has for disabled people. And you can look at that at www.bighack.org/resources. So I'm going to talk today a bit about how inclusive design affects spending decisions and the impact that a lack of inclusive design has on disabled people. So you'll hear me talk quite a bit about accessibility. Accessibility is like the Bible or the rule book you might use for getting your technology to a point where it's of a minimum standard of accessibility for disabled people to use, or people who have access requirements but might not consider themselves disabled. Um, Also, I will talk about inclusive design. So inclusive design is like your overall design methodology that you're using. A lot of people talk about human-centered design. Well, we say that inclusive design goes a step beyond that and practices human-centered design with a really diverse array of individuals, which will get something that's usable for a much wider pool of people, but also usually ends up being much better for everybody. So some great examples of inclusive design that I'd love to highlight would be the touchscreen. So touchscreen on your phone, that was designed for people with motor impairments originally, and then became the norm of kind of what we all use on our smartphones, etc. today. Also voice assistant technology, that started with the blind community, and RNIB had a big role to play in the development of that tech. Um, and also, as you'll see on the screen here, this is the OXO Good Grips line. And this line was designed for people who had arthritis and was really game changing for everyone in their kitchen wanting to peel vegetables. So I'm going to talk through a few examples of where accessible design has real benefits for your product or service. And these tend to be kind of little known reasons why you should practice accessibility. Um, One example would be that accessibility can really improve your search engine optimization. Having a semantic heading structure, correct use of H1s, H2s, H3s, for example, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Using descriptive alt text for images, um, and also link text and adding captions to videos. They will all help you with your search engine optimization. A great example would be Legal and General. They developed a new website with accessibility at its forefront, and they tested it with disabled people. The results were incredible. Organic search traffic increased by 25% in the first 24 hours after launch, eventually growing to 50%. Page loading times reduced by 75%. Annual site maintenance savings came to £200,000, and staff time spent, managing content reduced from 5 days to half a day per job. Um, there was 100% return on investment in 12 months. So really strong example of why implementing accessibility is good for SEO, but also resourcing. Prioritizing accessibility obviously also benefits your brand. 63% of consumers prefer to purchase products and services from companies that stand for a purpose. We are seeing a real movement towards consumers wanting to buy from an ethical brand, and a real kind of more investigative journalism into businesses, and where perhaps they're not behaving so ethically, is seeing consumers really take power into their own hands. Um, a great example here, engineers at Apple have been accessibility innovators since the company began. For pioneering features like VoiceOver, Braille display, and baking accessibility into all of their products, they're widely regarded as the best in the industry. What Apple have been really pivotal in doing is showing that accessibility can be baked into the mainstream product. So previously, for blind people engaging with laptop or computer websites, apps, they'd have to use something separate, so an assistive technology, which are often quite complicated and difficult to learn to use, really expensive. Well, with the iPhone, they showed that that product can be baked in to mainstream tech and also be made much easier to use. Improving accessibility can boost sales. Are you designing out 20% of your customers? So there are 14 million disabled people in the UK and 1 billion disabled people globally. 40% of UK households have at least one disabled person in, and that's 11 million households. Now, that spending power of that household, the decision making might not be on behalf of yourself, but on behalf of the disabled person in that household and vice versa. So if you are creating products and services that are accessible, you're likely to win the hearts of the whole household, not just the disabled individual. And there's an example here of how Tesco boosted sales. Tesco built a faster version of their website. It had a more intuitive navigation structure. It had clear descriptive link text and simpler language. They also had fewer images, which happened to decrease the page loading speed. So Tesco discovered that fully sighted customers found it easier to use this new interface and shortly built accessibility into all its online services. A great example of where making accessible design has actually enhanced the product for absolutely everyone. They also found that deliveries per average week increased from 28,000 in 2000 to 70,000 per week in 2001. So that's a huge uplift in numbers of orders. Being accessible can still make you a market leader today. So last year there was some research undertaken by WebAIM, which is an organization that focuses around digital accessibility. And they found that 98% of home pages from 1 million of the most popular websites online, they failed to meet the legal minimum accessibility standard. So we're looking at an online world where only kind of 2% of it is really accessible. So there's a lot that needs to be done. A few businesses are doing really well and they're showing where they're kind of driving competition in their industries. Barclays, Disney Plus streaming service, and Skyscanner. And hopefully kind of they pave the way for other businesses to realize how much of an opportunity accessibility is. Okay, so this is just a shot of the Big Hack reporting tool. This was launched a number of months ago, and we have been gathering disabled people's feedback about the online world. As we can gather it kind of as we go along, people can fill in surveys any day. It really helps us keep our finger on the pulse of a very fast moving industry and see where people are having concerns or even having really great experiences in the online world. So we've had over 3,000 people fill in surveys to tell us about their experiences. One of the most kind of, well, shocking, I guess, but maybe not so much for us who've been working in this for a long time, but we did find that when people were asked in this crowdsourcing tool, how does it make you feel when you cannot complete a task online? And that was in an open-ended question. We found that one word was used so much that, as you can see here, this is a direct shot of our word cloud. It broke the word cloud. The word got so big. It was actually even bigger at one point, but this was the shot that we got, that it wouldn't fit on the page. We're calling this the F word of inaccessibility, and this word is frustrated. And you can see other words here. We've got frustrating. We've also got difficult, annoyed, frustration. So you can just sense here how frustrating it is to try and complete a task online, be it buying your groceries or buying a pair of socks, or might be ordering an Uber or a takeaway. But there's so many blockages there for someone with access requirements that it's really gonna be really frustrating, very annoying. Okay. Here's some other information that we got when we asked people, when you have problems buying goods or services on a website or app or using an in-store machine, what do you do? So they were able to select multiple options, and these were the top 3 responses. We had 50% saying, I don't buy the item, so give up purchase. Another one saying, I'll find an alternative provider. That's 48% of people saying that. And 32% said, I asked someone else to complete the purchase for me. So that's really powerful. If 50% of people saying that they wouldn't complete that purchase, it's like turning away a huge amount of people from buying, who want to buy your product, from actually buying it. Okay. And when we asked people in the past year, have you had a poor digital experience in any of the following because your disability made it difficult to buy or use those things, we had a huge number of people tell us that in the industry of selling groceries, that made it they had a poor digital experience, which made it really difficult for them to buy their groceries. That's 39%. I think it's worth noting as well that in the current coronavirus pandemic, supermarkets have really not been geared up to support disabled people in this time. And we found that when we kind of look at what businesses are doing really well in supporting their disabled customers through coronavirus, it's those businesses who are innovating really effectively around disability before the pandemic hit. And now, we get a lot of calls to our helpline, disabled people telling us that they are absolutely terrified about running out of food. They don't want to go to the supermarkets because they might be in a high risk group, and catching coronavirus could potentially be deadly. However, the online ordering, grocery shopping is just not geared up for them at all, and it's been really challenging. And we're trying to kind of work with supermarkets to find a way to solve that. But yeah, it just shows that if they've been looking at this before and thinking about how they meet the requirements of their disabled customers, then disabled people wouldn't be struggling so much now. So the second most disappointing is with 38% is trains. I mean, the public transport is one of the priority issues for disabled people, and it just kind of shows that the offline experience is also there in the online experience, with kind of booking trains and having that engagement with the travel companies. We took a look at TfL's website and it's not accessible. I mean, you really think that of all the things that should be accessible, TfL website should be one of them. I hope no one from TfL is watching. Well, actually, no, I do hope someone from TfL is watching this. Okay, and the third one would be clothing and footwear. Fourth, food and drink to eat out or take away. Hotels, B&Bs, phone and internet bills, entertainment, sports and leisure. Homewares, furnishings, appliances, and then number 9, utilities, electricity and gas. And the last one, medical or dental services. So it's quite hard hitting that there are some really important kind of vital day-to-day industries there that we actually need to engage with, like paying bills, organising our gas and electrics and paying those bills, also medical or dental services. I mean, these are kind of essential human needs that people are facing barriers in accessing. So we did some research into the spending power of disabled people, and that's called the Purple Pound. It's an increasing figure. It's worth 274 billion annually in the UK. So that's a huge amount of money that disabled people have and are willing to spend. Here's just a quote I received, or we received through our reporting tool. I would like to spend more than I currently do, but I can't because it's such a laborious task. If websites, apps and stores were more accessible, then I'd spend more because I'd have no restrictions. The Purple Pound is worth a lot, but businesses don't seem to realise this and put the effort in to make their products and websites accessible in order to benefit from the Purple Pound. Also, you can actually view what people are saying through our reporting tool. If you go onto the reporting tool, there's a tab called Analytics, and basically we've just made anything people are saying that they've consented to make public, we've made that public. So if you're from a mainstream business, it's quite likely that your name has been mentioned. So there's a search button icon, the thing. You can search for your business or for kind of common themes like screen reader or impairments, and see what people are saying. And it really helps to kind of get people's perspective, see what disabled people's experiences are and actually hear their voices through that. Okay, so the most common issues that people are likely to experience online, I've just done a quick run through of these, and if you want any more information on this, you can go to the Big Hack Resource Hub. So color contrast, you've probably all heard about this as a real significant accessibility issue. But for text to be readable or other elements to be distinguishable, they need to have sufficient contrast with the background. The recommended minimum is 4.5 to 1. There are plenty of color contrast checkers online that are free to download. Here's one, contrastratio.com, which is a plugin, and you can check that color contrast for free. Writing in plain English. This is something that helps everyone, not just people with access requirements. Writing in plain English makes your content much easier and quicker for people to read and engage with. And in particular, in our kind of modern, fast-paced, distracted society, this is a good tactic to use to get people's attention and get your message out quickly. So the average reading age in the UK is 9 years old. Metaphors and figures of speech can also be confusing for those who cannot understand the inferred meaning. Write or paste your text directly into this fantastic product. It's called Hemingway app. It's free, and that's www.hemingwayapp.com. And that gives you a really good steer on how accessible your content is. It will give you a reading age, and it will also show you where you're using passive instead of active voice, and where sentences are just too complicated to read, so you can edit it and see how you're improving your copy in real time. Okay, I don't know if any of you saw the hashtag no caption, no vote movement that took over Twitter when a load of MPs in the last election were releasing lots and lots of videos about kind of to try and get the nation's vote, but many of them didn't have captions on those videos. So essentially 11 million people in the UK are hearing impaired or deaf. So that's cutting people out, a huge quantity of people who will need those captions. But also there's loads of other reasons why captions are useful. So you might be on a busy train and you don't want your sound on. You might be in a loud environment, so you can't hear your video playing. So captions are so important on any video content. Okay, keyboard only navigation. This is really important. Anyone using assistive tech will be tabbing through a website and instead of using a mouse. So to check your own website, you can use the tab key. See if you can get through your website, see if it makes sense where you are. Is there focus styling? Is there a box around where you are so you can see? Or do you just seem to be lost in your website? Because that will be the experience of a huge quantity of people. There are many, many access requirements that mean that you tab through a site. So do make sure that your tabbing order really makes sense. Okay, and heading structure. This basically is sometimes screen reader users will navigate by heading so that they get to the main points. If your heading structure is all over the place, then someone could be taking kind of all over the page. It's important to structure your website content using heading 1, which would be kind of the main thing, and then heading 2 is, so the heading 1 I guess would be the title, and then the subtext to that would be heading 2, and you structure an order of priority of importance. You can use WebAIM's Wave Chrome plugin and see how your headings are structured. We've been doing some free accessibility audits for various websites, and it's an incredibly popular website and its headings were all over the place. It didn't make any sense for someone navigating by headings. That it just would have been completely illogical. So this is really important. And I think this is the last point, but large links, buttons and controls. It's important to make buttons, links and controls large enough so that people with motor impairments can use them. If you imagine someone with a tremor, it's going to be really difficult to click on something that's really small or right next to something else. Also, old age has a big impact on how people will need to have larger links and buttons. Okay, thank you so much for listening to me. You can find us on Twitter at ScopeBigHack. Also, do check out the Resource Hub, www.bighack.org.uk/resources. And obviously, there's some time for questions now, but you can also email us at bighack@scope.org.uk. Thanks.